Hey YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about planning for the next year and what we're going to do in 2019. Stay tuned. Yes, today we're going to talk about planning for 2019 and our prepping that we want to accomplish or do. And I'm taking this from a perspective of using a tool that many of us might use to potentially engage other people in prepping, or how they might, the average Joe might come about the issue of being prepared for any of life's disasters. And as simple as this calendar here, it's something that encourages people to purchase items on a schedule and put together a plan and what it's for. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this calendar down and see how useful it is, and really look into it to see what I might be short on, how effective would this calendar be, and really is it just something to get the discussion started. We can look at it and go into it further here. So the good thing about this calendar is it gives some people up front the intent of what this is all about. It's intended to give you somebody the ideas of what they need to buy for a 3 to 7 day supply kit, as it mentions here, and also having a schedule on the calendar for what they can purchase each Friday, which gives people a goal to work towards. So it's already written down for them. They don't have to plan it out, right? So we're going to look at that and see how that works. It talks about having this in a large container, which is always, waterproof and good for them to have, stored away. It talks about a grab-and-go bag and an emergency car kit. All things we talk about in prepping, and some of the things that haven't, and nothing else, somebody having this list alone would go a long way to being prepared for just your basic in-home or car disaster, as it mentions. So that's good. I like that, and that's up front. So it's the first thing people see when they open it up. Let's look into the date. This calendar also goes into why to get a kit, being informed, making a plan, what your family's plan is, the different components that can be used. So there's a lot of good information in here, even before you get to the purchasing of items, which planning is most important over anything. But getting into this calendar, what I did is I went through every Friday and I took out each of the items to look at what it tells you to buy throughout the year and broke that down, because really, what are the odds that this calendar prioritizes it properly for me? And so this might be something where if you try to use something like this to get somebody talking about it, take that next step with them, going prioritizing what it really looks at. And so what I did is I took the items out and I wrote them down as they went day by day. And I went through every item and marked it if it was mentioned more than once as a part of the prepping. And basically I got, 4 pages of total items. And obviously some of them are redundant, or not even redundant, but necessary to repeat often. And other items are not applicable to everybody. So I would go ahead and mark those off. But interestingly, once I went through the whole year, gallons of water, I had 9 total. So there are 8 mentions above and 1. So there was 9 total gallons of water that were mentioned. A pretty good amount of water stored up for one person. That gives you, basically, if it's, if you would have to multiply it by the number of people in the household, if they wanted to apply that. They didn't mention that you wanted to multiply the items by the number of people in the household. So that, thinking about it, if you talk about a 3 to 7 day kit in your home, 7 gallons of water would be ideal. This mentions having 9 once you get to the end of it. So that's a pretty good number. But it gets really scattered throughout. And really, if somebody is looking at one of these, or it's best to go through the whole thing, list it all out, and find out what you need to prioritize, because it goes all over the place. jars of peanut butter, rope. And this is the order it went in, starting from the beginning. Manual can opener, safety pins, latex gloves, can of fruit, waterproof matches. Very sporadic, and depending on what you have on hand, it could be a couple months into the year before you get into stuff that, hey, I really need this because I don't have this, or whatever. So people are going to really need to skip around and take some initiative. So I wouldn't necessarily just throw a calendar out like this at somebody and tell them to use it to prep. But going through it and making a full list of all the items, you can get a good idea of what is necessary. But give you an example, at the very end be one of the couple of things I would put way up front. 2 rolls of toilet paper, baby wipes, hand wipes. I would say baby wipes. They said hand wipes. I would use the term baby wipes because they're multi-purpose in the way people think about them. But toilet paper, I would put that at the beginning, and I would need, there's only 2 rolls mentioned in the whole list. So that's definitely a gap. We always talk about how people don't think about some of the basics. Toothpaste was mentioned toward the end. Something needs to be up front. Personal hygiene items. So it's really, and it's a lot of this calendar is focused around even the most basic of basic things. Things need to do basic household repairs, crescent wrench, hammer, stuff like that. That's like almost second nature, but for somebody who's not in the mindset, there's a lot of items in here, you know, that may get people thinking. So, but it's a lot of things we also talk about and having in ourselves. But a lot of the things that are mentioned multiple times: 3 bags of garbage bags, 3 different events of buying garbage bags, 3 different events of buying plastic Ziploc bags, 3 boxes of energy snacks like granola bars or something like that. So it's really sporadic, and it's not well thought out. So don't use this as your ultimate guide. If you were to get something from like FEMA or I don't know who's the other, DHS, or any of the, I guess you'd say the government locations, whether it's the Boy Scouts or anybody that's giving out a list of here's your prepping items, you really got to go through and put some thought into it, because this is really short on food supplies. It has 2 jars of peanut butter once you go through the whole year, 3 cans of fruit, 4 cans of meat, 3 cans of juice, 4 cans of vegetables. Really, how many meals is this really putting back for even a 3 to 7 day kit? This is not even the minimum that this calendar is covering when it gets into it. And there's things that are like, why is there more than one? I look at it and there's not a mode of use, like thought of, like it mentions pliers, utility knife, and things like that. Like in a simple Leatherman can take the place of a lot of things like that. Batteries is mentioned twice. It mentions hard candy. It mentions pet food. They mention a lot of things like hearing aid batteries, your prescription medicines, of those things. But you really need to go through and prioritize in a situation like this. And let's look at the calendar itself. So like here's a Friday, first Friday in February. Gallon of water, can of meat, roll of gauze, bandages, all good first aid stuff, right? Another can of meat, 2 weeks back to back, baby food if needed, aspirin, acetaminophen, permanent markers, maybe not. I mean, there's uses for it, no doubt. But really, what is that use? A good one here, another thing that it would be more up front, AM, FM radio. It's the 4th week of February. Next, getting into March. Safety goggles, PPE type. Something to keep, dust goggles, could be anything like that. Waterproof matches, heavy work gloves. All things that if you know you're missing, yes, go into it. But again, too, it mentions fruit, meat, diapers if needed. Don't forget the kiddos, right? But really, how can we break this up and prioritize it so that it meets our needs, right? Because you don't want to be getting into October and realize, oh, I would really should have got this back in January, right? And like we were talking about a chat last month. Do it now. I was talking about doing this breakdown and doing like a week-to-week thing on each of these items and why and what to plan to buy and stuff like that, when really you need to evaluate anything like this and prioritize your own list. Don't just wait for something you find randomly that just seems to go random. Like this talks about a fire extinguisher in March. It is March, right? Wait, October. October, ABC fire extinguisher. Get a fire extinguisher now. What's your most important, you know? So really, what I'm going to do is go through this list, see what I would prioritize, and get further into it based upon not only maybe needs, like, but also looking at the idea of what you need for that 3 to 7 day kit that they mentioned at the beginning. So going down the list I made in my notebook, I'm going to go through and either mark off or write or check off an item that I am going to look at purchasing or getting and stocking up, even to meet the basic needs. Can never have too much water. Water is always going to be a need to get and stocking up on. Peanut butter, it's one of the most personal preference things, right? You cannot stock up enough peanut butter, and also, in my opinion. But one thing that's missing in here is, like, you know, what are you going to, where's the crackers? Where's, you know, you can put it on granola bar or something like that. You know, you need, peanut butter's going to go with something, right? I found it funny that they did mention jelly later on the list. It's like, but no bread, or bread's a consumable though, but no crackers. It's just kind of, again, it's sporadic, but peanut butter, good source of protein, a good prepping item, a good thing you can rotate, and almost everybody eats it regularly. Rope is a good one, but I have got plenty of rope. Manual can opener, I have a couple. I've got a Leatherman. You know, how many different types of can openers can you get that are, you know, manual, handheld, with no worries? Safety pins, no worries, I'm going to be good on that. Latex gloves, we've went into those in the medical kits. We're good on those. So they do mention PPE and a different variety of things. Cans of fruit, you always want to stock up on your canned goods and rotate them. Waterproof matches would be a good item. If you don't have lighters, waterproof matches or lighters, I would say, you know, why not look at both options? The hurricane matches are always good. Sunscreen, oh, of course, it depends on where you are. Sorry, I skipped over the cans of meat. Cans of meat, if you don't can your own, if somebody is just getting started, just having 4 cans of chicken or turkey or tuna or whatever, 4 cans of sardines would be a good start. So it mentions a total of 4 cans of meat, which, again, you look at it 3 to 7 days. If you're trying to build up to a 7-day kit, you're definitely going to need more than that. Antidiarrheal medicine, getting into medicines and needed items, especially if you're in a situation where maybe the water sanitation isn't as advertised and you don't get the warning until after the fact. Say there's a power outage of some sort and everybody's still using their water, you know, backup generators are working at a water distribution point or some other event, and your water becomes less than ideal, or it's an outbreak of some sort. Antidiarrheal medicine, having medicines like that stocked and rotated. Roll of gauze, always want to have a medical kit. Have your medical kit. Obviously, I've got that from our first aid discussion. I'm going to cross that off my list, but you definitely want to build up your first aid kit. And it mentions bandages in that same day in the calendar. You want to have your bandages. I'm good on that, but definitely a necessity to rotate through. Baby food if needed. Obviously, I don't have that problem, right? Unfortunately, but if obviously you want to plan ahead, but a lot of things like your canned fruit, your other canned items, you can, what's the word for it? Mush them up. That's the only word I can think of. You can take those items and make them so a baby can eat them by pureeing them yourself. Puree, that's probably a better word, right? Pureeing them yourself with whatever tools you have, instead of having a specific food like that. Although there is certain nutrition in baby food that may not be in other canned items, but for dual use and for thinking about if you have a bunch of canned fruit, you can puree that stuff yourself and manually do it to provide what you need. Aspirin, acetaminophen, you know, medicines are always good. You want to stock up, rotate. A permanent marker or two can't hurt. You want to have one in your any type of kit to write down, maybe on something, a message of some sort. Waterproof container for your first aid supplies. Definitely need, or your waterproof supplies for weatherproof, waterproof. I've showed my first aid kit items, and I don't have them in any type of hard container except for the one here in the house. Everything else is in a soft pouch container, but the items inside are in water-resistant packaging, or like I've showed the food saver idea, putting your first aid bandages and stuff in a food saver item and compressing that like you would saving food. Pen and paper, probably gets forgot about more than it should. Portable AM/FM radio, we've got one, but you definitely want to go get one of those. We've got pen and paper. I would say pencil and paper too. Just like this. Use a pencil. Pencil and paper. A crescent wrench, you need tools, but we're good on that. Plastic safety goggles. What did it mention up here? Gloves. Okay, and there's safety goggles. So some sort of a dust goggle, or like something for work, to work on items, something you can use in a disaster. Maybe you figure that's thinking about disasters where you have potential to move debris and stuff like that, potentially. Earthquakes around here are a concern, but anywhere there's going to be a lot of dust in the air or something, but you need to have some of those on hand. We're good. Heavy work gloves, go buy you a 3-pack of leather gloves, right? But we're good on that. Antiseptic wipes, like I mentioned earlier, it calls them two different things. So it has antiseptic wipes here, and what's the difference between that and baby wipes? Is there a heavier duty version? I was wondering that, because I would just stock up on baby wipes. But I will say this is definitely something to consider prepping. They do need a rotation, but they're good to have disposable, especially if the water goes out and you're in an urban location. Having something that you can clean up quickly with. Taking that desert bath, if you will. Diapers if needed. I don't have that concern, but obviously you're going to need to do that. Might want to think about stocking up some cloth diapers that you'd be able to clean yourself. If you're in that, you don't want to go with the disposables, because they're going to completely take up a lot of room and be consumed quickly. But cloth diapers, obviously, there's a recycling factor. Compresses. I'm talking about Ace bandages. It called it compresses. I would think of Ace bandages, and just like we had in that discussion on the first aid kit, Hoople's cat brought out the need for Ace bandages for sprains and such, and I did identify that I need a couple of those. I even need them for a home kit. Maybe Ace brand bandages is next. It mentioned extra medications and prescriptions. Definitely want to look into that. Just as simple as extra cough medicine, extra antacid, extra, trying to think of some other things we might keep around here. Your Tylenol, acetaminophen was mentioned up here. But anything prescription-wise, definitely. It's harder to get. A USB, a backup hard drive, and we've talked about, many different people talk about what to keep on those, any of your records, anything that can back that up. Cans of juice, it mentions 3 in the total list. 4 cans of vegetables. These are definitely items you're going to want to have. Going back, though, we have the hard drive. Cans of juice we're going to look at. The thermometer. I thought that was interesting. Have a way to take people's temperature. Useful in a kit. Especially if it's your illness scenario. Knowing how high their fever is. Different diseases have different thresholds. And like you see the Ebola going out now. There's a temperature threshold that can be really important as to whether Ebola could be a possibility. Obviously, we don't have that travel issue right now, but if it ever got here, knowing when their fever is coming and going and what their temperatures are is important to determining that, if you don't have medical assistance, of course. Over here, saline solution, definitely good for many different uses. Extra contact lenses, and then backup glasses. These are all mentioned on the same day. Simple items like that for people that need the basics. But we're good on that here. We're going to cross that out. Whistle, your basic pocket item. You know, we think some things we take for granted, but we're good, but you definitely want to get one of those flashlights. Having a light source, right? With batteries. Mentions batteries twice. We're good on flashlights and batteries. Utility knife, like I talked about, though, making that multi-purpose. A Leatherman tool would go a lot further if you can afford it, right? We got so many utility knives, it's not even funny. Bungee cord, it mentions it twice in the calendar. Bungee cords are useful. It doesn't mention in the calendar what you would use them for. So somebody who's not necessarily thinking, one thing that I think about when I think of bungee cord is putting up a shelter. A tarp is not mentioned anywhere in this calendar. I didn't see any survival blanket, no means of creating a shelter. So it's very focused on mostly in-home, that 3 to 7 day kit. But that beginning kit for the vehicle with something to make a shelter or something, bungee cords could become important. We're good on bungees though. Latex gloves mentioned again. It mentioned the gloves earlier, 2 pair, but having those in your first aid kit and around the house to protect your hands from potential pathogens, bloodborne or waterborne or otherwise. Pet food, want to prep for your pets. Always important. Hard candy, it mentions having that in a go bag in particular, but you can also stock up hard candy forever. You know, Jolly Ranchers, whatever, butterscotch, whatever people like. It's mentioned twice in there. I thought that was good. It also mentions books and games, having something for when the power goes out. Every prepper channel has talked about having the things to have during boredom. A simple pack of cards and a Monopoly game will save you, plus your library, whatever library you have, will go a long way. We're going to be good on that around here, though. Electronic backup device. So it mentions this twice. It mentions USB or hard drive earlier, and then it mentions electronic backup device again in the calendar. So it's almost like they gave people different. It's like 2 different people making this list because they're being redundant now. If you got one backup, why would you need a second? I don't understand that, but it's a reminder to get those important documents, etc., backed up. Things now work so much on the cloud. Having that in a cloud storage of OneDrive or something like that, Google Drive, is almost the go-to nowadays, where this is almost, I wouldn't say not necessarily, but less necessary, because if you've got internet access, you're good with your Google Drive. But if everything else is down, but you need to go from computer to computer, you'll still have that backup of a USB or something like that. Package of beef jerky. It only mentions this once. Stock up on your beef jerky. Cans of soup. 2 cans of soup are mentioned. Can never have too much soup. Scissors. That's a good tool to have. Really, I would say trauma shears, medical scissors, instead of just regular scissors here, but not sure what the intent is. So you have scissors in the home. Yeah, that's great. But finding something, that's what I would think of, but we're good on that here. Sleeping bag. So if you got a sleeping bag per person, but this is what, the month of March or something like that we're into at this point when it mentions sleeping bag. If you're thinking about a 3 to 7 day kit for your house, really, blankets become more practical for most people, more useful. Extra blankets would be more useful. In your car kit, a sleeping bag is usually a little more what you need if you're out there on the road. But it does mention a sleeping bag, but we're pretty good on sleeping bags around here. But extra sleeping bag or blankets. It doesn't mention blankets anywhere else in the calendar, which I found as a gap. So again, if you're talking to somebody else about this, thinking about what this is really needed for, what is the sleeping bag really for? Well, I would say it's for your road kit. If it's for the home, I would say get extra blankets. It's something that can be used when you have guests over and sleepovers and everything else. This was a good one, and I think this is a Nevada Western-centric. Straps or brackets to screw furniture into the wall. That's for earthquake preparedness. It's kind of just an extra item. It's not have anything to do with that 3 to 7 day kit. This is more an immediate prep item around here to get things secured to the wall so they don't fall over on you or on people. Soap, extra soap. It only mentions it once. How much is, you need extra soap. Bar per person. What's your, 3 to 7 days of bar will go a long way. If you can't get to the store. It mentions shampoo. I would say shampoo is not a necessity, but I'm not the one with long hair around here. But a little extra shampoo. Usually the women buy it by the gallon, so it's not an issue. But you can always use soap to really get done what needs to be done as far as cleanliness goes. If you're worried about shiny, manageable hair, you might want to stock up on some shampoo. Got way down here into the word about the month of April, and it mentions salt and pepper. Oh, by the way, we're good on shampoo and soap. I'm not going to worry about that. But salt and pepper and spices, always needed. Salt for its multiple uses, not just on food, but preserving food, etc. Pepper, other spices. We've got a small contingent of this. I would want to stock up on this a little bit more through the year. It mentions a box of graham crackers. I guess this would go with my peanut butter. I had misplaced this. I didn't realize. I was thinking, I put peanut butter on regular saltines, right? But it does have graham crackers that can go with your peanut butter. So it's got but it has one box, a dry good like that. It's not wrong. But it just don't limit yourself to thinking, well, I have to have graham crackers. Well, like I said, saltines, something to go with the other things that you have in your, if you're getting sardines and your other canned meats with your peanut butter, have any type of saltine or anything to go with that. Next was box of energy snacks, granola, etc. I had mentioned this 3 times on the list. So these are good dry snacks to have prepped away, store away a long time. They can be rotated easily. Definitely something to keep working on. Instant coffee and tea. I got so much instant tea and coffee around here, it's not even funny. I think we buy tea by the gross. And I've got a fair amount of coffee. We won't worry about that for the year, but we do keep our rotation. Any special dietary needs, if you're gluten intolerant or whatever, that's a case. But it does mention that way down the list. And really so many things need to be at the front to kind of just get people in the mindset of really what you're looking for as you build your list. Plumbers tape, you can't go wrong with tape. We're good on tape. That's interesting to have plumbers tape because really that's a specific repair item to, if you have to fix plumbing or fix a drain leak or, unclog your sink or something. It's real specific. That was interesting as a part of this. A hammer, a basic household item. Have a hammer. I got like 6 hammers. Dry cereal, having a dry cereal to easily store away. They can go with your other, breakfast things are easily to store and fairly easy to eat. If anybody, I don't know, as a kid, multiple times I had water with my cereal when you ran out of milk or just that's the way it was, but you had something. Vitamins, stocking up on vitamins to go with your other medications. It's as a reminder, is one of the things. It's not a problem with that. Tweezers are a good item to keep in your med kit. Having those, I said that small package of tweezers. I got a big set of tweezers in my bigger kit. Tweezers are good. We're good on that here though. Extra set of clothing per person. Having that in that would be in particular your go bag or in your car kit. Jackets, if people aren't prepared with jackets based on your environment, you might be in trouble already. It goes on. Package of paper cups. What month are we in when they mention paper cups? Let me see here. So paper cups are mentioned once we get into July. In July here, the last Friday of July, it mentions paper cups. Really, I would go with plastic cups. They're a little bit more durable. If you're really having issues with how many dishes you can wash or clean because of water shortages or the water's out, which is really the intent behind that, I would still go with a plastic cup. It's more reusable. But any reason you want to stock those up, I would go with the plastic, what do they call them, solo cups or whatever. Denture supplies, it's reaching out to elderly people too, people without teeth. We're good. A sewing kit, you want to have needle and thread on you. I've shown that in my go bag. Having that obviously in your household. If you don't have a sewing kit, you're just not dealing with daily problems, but people live like that. So even the basic things could be needed in their home, as such as a sewing kit, but we're good on that. Garbage bags, again, heavy-duty garbage bags, it mentions 3 times. So all of this stuff is thinking about lack of water, lack of other sanitation. You have a lot of garbage bags available to dispose of that stuff. Bag it up, keep it bagged up, keep trash bagged up. If maybe there's trash man's not coming, you need to be able to seal up all that stuff that you're disposing of, especially in the big city. You can always have more garbage bags. Package of plates, paper plates. Same concept with the paper cups. You know, water outages. You can't wash dishes as much. Stocking up on paper plates. It's never wrong. Hearing aid batteries. That was interesting. Specific item. The extra. You think that would go with extra batteries if you needed them. You needed them. I'm not hard of hearing yet, but people with specific needs, you don't want to get into what are we in August before you think about that. So again, going through this whole list and thinking ahead of time. Pliers, need tools, screwdriver, vice grips. These are all right down the list in August. Crowbar, vice grips. We're good around here, but get your basic tools. Have a basic tool bag in your vehicle, if not in your home. It mentions a quart of regular bleach. I don't know why you wouldn't just get a gallon, but again, thinking about the city type, or people that maybe go to the laundromat to do their own laundry or something. They don't have a gallon of bleach, but a bleach of any sort goes a long way for multiple uses. Stock up on it. Keep your bleach up. Paper towels, it mentions twice, 3 rolls of paper towels. So 3 packs of paper towels. It mentioned on 2 different days. Something to clean up with. Obviously, and I found that interesting. All this stuff is going through before we get to toilet paper. Definitely go through anything. Aluminum foil, very useful. It's got a very specific one here that it had on a day. Activated charcoal. And it says to use under the direction of poison control. So thinking about if somebody ingests something they shouldn't, need to take activated charcoal. That's on the list. I found that kind of odd, but useful. Very specific, but a good thing to have on hand, if especially somebody ingests the wrong things. And this is in September now that we're getting into. Measuring spoons, and I found this interesting. Measuring spoon, extra quarter teaspoon for measuring bleach. We always use the top of the lid, right? That's what Mama always used, or whatever. But so it's getting into some things that people don't usually think about, but really what I need a measuring spoon for. Then it goes in an extra one for quarter teaspoon for bleach. What are the other ones for? Eating utensils. Obviously, if you don't have eating utensils, you're behind the power curve in the Western world, but I guess if you need another extra one, I guess plastic utensils might be what they meant to get at for if washing isn't available. Having extra picnic utensils isn't going to hurt nothing. Extra toothbrush, rubbing alcohol, all good things, all good uses that you can talk about. Disposable dust masks. This is separate from the masks they mentioned earlier, but they do mention these separate. So any obviously situation where dust could be in the air. It doesn't say N95, but we always talk about getting a specific N95 type mask for better protection, I guess you should say. And then you got the obviously you got the more heavy duty masks for that you can use. The what are they? Particulate masks that are better for, like, people use for heavy construction and painting and stuff, that are even better than your disposable stuff if you can make that purchase. Way down here, down in October, ABC fire extinguisher really should be up front as a basic household item. We're good on those. And once you get them, you just check them, make sure they're in the green, replace as needed. Local area map, very important. You can go on Google and print one out. You can get your basic road map, or get as detailed a terrain map as you think needed. But really their focus here, I think, is to get to a road map so people know their exits and entries and escape routes. But definitely get you a road road map of your local area so that you're not relying on your Google Earth when the system goes down. Battery-powered lantern was mentioned. Having mentioned flashlights earlier, whichever you go with, useful item. Waterproof plastic container to hold all your stuff is mentioned. Box of tissue, annex box of tissue. It's useful. Really, you've gotten 3 rolls of paper towels. You could break that up, but it's a different use. Maybe something for the car kit. Depends on what you want to use it for. 3 large plastic storage zip bags or Ziplocs. As mentioned 3 times. You can't have too many Ziplocs, but you want to keep those stocked up. You can use them in your prepping kits and put your first aid items in. You can use it for multiple uses, obviously, for storing food and stuff. Adhesive bandages is mentioned twice. You want to stock up on those. We're good. Liquid dish soap is mentioned twice. I found that interesting. They want you to prep paper cups and other disposable supplies, but also extra dish soap. Like you're going to run out of that. As long as really as you got hot water, dish soap just kind of speeds up the process a little bit. Maybe they're thinking of people's, I guess if there's a certain point to where people use dishwashers so much they don't have regular dish detergent and are not used to washing their dishes in the sink. But if the power goes out, but if you still have gas to your stove, you can still heat water up enough to do dishes if you can get water. Maybe that's the thought. You still need dish soap for that type of thing. I wouldn't put this at the top of my list. Food storage containers. I mean, leftover food, I guess, but it mentions it twice, which is interesting. You can put, those small plastic food storage containers, but I don't know if this is talking about the heavy-duty ones or the disposable types, but you can use those. Are good to put in medical kits and stuff. I would almost consider that a waterproof plastic container for some of these food storage disposable containers they make now that are fairly durable. It mentions plastic wrap twice. Again, it's a food storage issue. And now we're getting into the last month of the year. It's where it gets to the important stuff. It gets into December and it's talking about antiseptic, toothpaste, cold packs. I guess breakable cold packs for sprains and breaks and stuff to bring down swelling, personal hygiene, child-proof latches, which I found interesting. That's a child safety thing, but we're going to be good. Camp stove and fuel, an excellent thing to put in your car kit, and to have even for use in the home. You can bring it in if you need to temporarily heat something up because you can't get out and about. And there's an alternate way to heat water to wash your dishes because you don't have power for your dishwasher or whatever. And here's what it mentions: jelly to go with your peanut butter, way down here on the list. I wouldn't even consider this a prepping item. I wouldn't even consider it necessary, but it's on there. So I kind of found that as extraneous, but kind of one of those personal needs if you think you need it. But I've got canned Blackberry Jam over here, so I guess I kind of do need it, but we use it, but I don't really think about that when I think of prepping. It mentions canned milk and powdered milk, whichever one you would want to go with. Obviously, powdered milk is probably going to give you a longer term and definitely needed. And canned milk, condensed milk, things like that. 2 rolls of toilet paper, way down here on the list. This should be way, way back there in January. And hand wipes, baby wipes, again, a January item that kind of goes backwards, but key items. So that's kind of going through the list. Now I'm going to prioritize these, how I'm going to approach it for the year, and see what we come up with of what, after I went through this whole year, what I need to prep. Oh, real quick, we're good on toilet paper. We stock up toilet paper by the gross. Baby wipes, I gotta look at my baby wipes. We do have some, but we're going to now prioritize this to make a plan.